Well, welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this very, very windy Monday afternoon. As you know, because of the COVID situation, we're turning towards the Zoom platform as a way to conduct our town meeting and to do it safely. Obviously, we don't have the option that we had in August of going outside. So we took that decision not at all lightly, and we committed to conducting these 5 or 6 training sessions so that we could make people comfortable with the use of Zoom. And I should point out that these training sessions aren't just for people new to Zoom. Even if you've got some experience with Zoom, you still will benefit by hearing Emily and Christian describe how we will use the Zoom features to be recognized and to vote. And so those are kind of the important functions at town meeting. Now, at town meeting, there's always a fairly large group of people who choose not to speak. The people who speak tend to be either those who are involved in a particular article or people that are district chairs or people like that. So if you are a person who does not generally speak at town meeting, you should certainly listen to all this, but you should rest assured that your learning curve is going to be less than if you're a person who's planning on doing a lot of speaking. So you'll be voting, and the voting part is what Emily and Christian will talk about. So don't get discouraged. If you have questions, please pop them up for Emily and Christian to look at. And you can also talk to us right at the end of the session. We'll hang on for a few minutes to see if there are any individual. And finally, we can provide some individual coaching for people if this is really proving to be a challenge for them. So thank you very much again for joining us on this Monday afternoon, and I'll turn it back to Emily and Christian.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Torres-Cullinane. I work for the Metropolitan Area Planning Council in Boston. I've been there for about 10 years, and I'm leading up the community engagement work at MAPC. And for the past 9 months, we've been really shifting all of our work to assisting municipalities with virtual engagement, whether it be, planning board meetings or town meeting. We do have experience doing this with Stoughton, and we are so much looking forward to working with you all and having a successful November 30th Dedham town meeting. So I just wanted to introduce here my colleague as well, Christian. He will also be joining us for the training.
Hey everybody, my name is Christian Brandt. I'm a planner and community engagement specialist at MAPC. And like Emily said, I work on the community engagement team, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you.
Great. All right, so what are we doing today? So by the end of today's training, we hope to introduce some Zoom webinar functions that you will be using at town meeting. For the first about 30 minutes, we will do very much basics. We hope to receive answers on any of your technical questions today and be able to provide some answers. And we also hope that you have more of an expectation for what virtual town meeting might look like and might function as. Please note that this PowerPoint presentation will be shared and it is very instructional, so you will be able to use it and refer to it as you prepare for town meeting.
That's probably a point we should emphasize. You don't have to scribble down a bunch of notes because Emily's going to send this to you.
Yes. And then for the agenda, we will try to keep it from 2 to 3:30. Again, for the first 30 minutes, we will be very much focused on the basics of how to raise your hand, how to test your audio, how to click unmute and mute, and we'll test your microphones. We will use the Q&A function, the question and answer function, and we will not actually be using chat today. So that is a note for people that are used to using chat. We will be going over registration and security. We will talk about some technology support that will be available after today. We will practice how to be recognized to speak during town meeting. how to vote, how to raise a point of order, and we will share some helpful tips and additional resources. All right, so the first thing that I want to explain about Zoom webinar is many of you may have used Zoom meetings in the past, but Zoom webinar is just a little bit different. It's sort of like picturing yourself in a dark auditorium. You as attendees, when you are at town meeting, will actually be sort of sitting in the audience. So for Zoom webinar, you won't be able to actually turn your cameras on. And in a little while, I'll actually take that function away, so you won't be able to use your cameras. But for town meeting, you will be what we call attendees of the Zoom webinar, and you will be able to see everything on the screen. You'll be able to see the speakers on the stage. You will be able to vote. You will be able to go sort of quote unquote up to the microphone, but you will not be able to be seen and easily unmute and mute. You just have to raise your hand for that function. We'll explain in a moment. On the stage, you will actually see the moderator. Oops, sorry, one, go back. And that the moderator will be a panelist. So will the town staff and the IT support will all be panelists. So that is sort of the biggest difference between Zoom and Zoom webinar. You have panelists and attendees. So for today, the first thing that I want to make sure you are going to be able to do is identify the icons that we're talking about. So the first icon that most people use to ask questions is called chat. We will not be using chat today, and we will not be using it at town meeting. We will be using a different way to ask questions. So I just wanted to let you know, I think that is one that you are most familiar with. If you use Zoom, we will not be using the chat button today. In order to work on your microphone and unmute and mute yourself and test your audio, you have to find this icon that's a microphone icon. And we'll go through these one by one, but I just want you to know that next to the microphone icon, there's a little arrow. And when we talk about that, we'll be referring to testing your audio. The other icon that we will be using mostly will be the hand icon, which is the raising of the hand. So you can see that there. And at the very bottom, the two speech bubbles are the question and answer icon for Q&A. All right, so if you're looking at a computer screen, you should be able to see here. You should be able to see your screen, and you can find the icons. You will see the bottom left icon has the mute and adjust audio buttons. It is at the bottom left. For your chat, raise your hand and ask a question icons. They are typically at the bottom center of your screen. The top right icons, which is like the dash and the two boxes and the X, that helps you minimize your screen, maximize your screen, and close your window. The only times that you might need this is if for whatever reason you have a box that has popped up and you can't quite find it. You might want to minimize, hit one of these buttons, and it will make your window go smaller or bigger throughout the meeting. If you're using a Mac computer, then your minimize, maximize, and closing your window will be at the left-hand corner, and it will be a red dot, a yellow dot, and a green dot. And if you look in the center of your screen at the very top, there should be a green button, green bar, and it indicates who is sharing their screen. And one important note is that during Zoom webinar, you cannot actually change your view. It is set to whoever's sharing their screen. One last important icon is the leave button at the bottom right. Please don't click that button or else you will actually leave the training. However, if you do by mistake hit the button, you will be able to come back. So if you do this during town meeting, don't worry, you can go back into your email and find your way back into the meeting. If you're navigating the meeting with your smartphone or your tablet, which I know there's someone on the line that is using, I think their iPad or a tablet, this is what the smartphone looks like. So at the bottom left, you will see the microphone button for unmuting and muting. At the bottom center, you will see the raise hand and the Q&A button. The top left, you can see the adjust audio button, and the top right, you can see the red leave button. And for anybody on their tablet, like I said, I know there's one person out there right now. These icons, you should be able to see them at the top of your screen. Again, the leave button, the microphone button, the hand, the Q&A. And then if you click those three dots where it says more, you can adjust your sound. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to use the chat. Sorry, we're not going to use chat today, so I'm going to skip through this. We're going to test your audio, and luckily for the people who signed on early, we did test your audio. Mostly everyone was working fine. You will see at the bottom left of your desktop the audio settings button. It is that arrow. If you click on this, or you will also see your microphone if you are if your audio is on. If you click this arrow, you should be able to have a screen that pops up. And let's see here, you'll have a box that pops up and you will click audio settings. When the audio settings screen comes up, you can test your speaker. So you see here it says test speaker. You would click that and you would be able to hear something play from your computer, and that will indicate that your speaker is working. To test your microphone, you would click test mic and speak, and then you will see that the computer is receiving your sound. So this is one way to test your speaker and microphone and change the options if they're not working. The second way is by clicking on test speaker and microphone in that black box that popped up at the beginning. And it says, do you hear a ringtone? The computer will play a sound. If you hear it, you click yes, and it will move you on to the next step. If you do not hear it, you will click no, and then you'll have to sort of identify what speaker you would like your computer to use. So if your sound is working, then it will test your microphone. You will speak, pause, and hear a replay. So the computer will repeat back to you what you said, and you would click yes if you can hear it, and no if you cannot hear it, and then that's how you would work on finding what microphone is working for you. All right, so another thing that we would like to mention is as technical folks on the line, we can mute you, but we actually can't unmute you. So we can mute you, but we can't unmute you. So you have to click on the unmute button yourself. And normally a box would pop up that says, would you like to unmute? And you would click unmute, or you would go to the microphone at the bottom left of your screen and you would click on this icon. Please note that when it says mute, you are actually able to speak. And when there's a line that goes through it, this means that you are muted. So I just want to make that differentiation so that you know that if you were to click the button that says unmute, it would open the line for you.
Yeah, and Emily, just to add to that, since that can be a little bit confusing, the text is telling you what will happen when you click the button. but the button itself, like the design, is showing you what you currently are. So the line through the button means that you're muted, but the text under it will say unmute. And that means that if you click the button, it will unmute you, which will then take the line off the microphone and change the text underneath to say mute. So the text will always tell you what will happen if you click the button.
Thank you, Christian, for that clarification. I know it can be a little confusing at first. So if you're on your telephone, there will be a button that pops up, or a box that pops up. It says host will allow you to talk in the webinar, and you can click stay muted or unmute. And if you are also on your phone, you can see the icon at the bottom left. As Christian indicated, there's no line, so this means you are unmuted and we can hear you. And then if you were to click on it, there's a line that appears over the microphone, and this means you are muted and we cannot hear you. So we will be testing this in a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. I can see some of you, I can't see all of you, and that's okay. You don't have to put your video cameras on, but I would like you to find your mute button and click it. So try turning it on and off. And if you would like to say something, we can test your microphone if we hadn't done that before.
Hi, David, this is Fred.
This is also the part of the training where you can talk to each other if you'd like, if you haven't seen each other in a while.
Hey, Michelle.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hi, Sal.
How are you?
My camera isn't going on.
Hi,
everyone.
Mary.
Hi,
So
Fred.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Diane.
Oh.
Testing.
Well, there are screens full of people.
Making it sound like Little House on the Prairie.
Bye.
No, the Waltons.
Oh, Walton.
Walton.
Walt.
right.
There you go.
Hi,
Sorry,
Janet.
Hi. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Hey, Cheryl Ann, Diane. Good to see you.
Hi, it's Janet.
Fred.
Great. Does anybody have any burning questions before we move on?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, Janet.
When I put my cursor down at the bottom of the screen, it says participants, question and A, share screen, and record. I don't have a little hand that says raise your hand.
Okay, that is a very good good thing that you noticed. So remember at the beginning when I said that there's attendees and there's what's called panelists?
Yeah.
Right now you're on stage with me, so you're a panelist. And in a moment, I'm going to put you back into those seats and you're going to be an attendee again.
Okay.
Once you're an attendee, your raise hand button will be at the bottom of the screen. And for the rest of the training for today, that's how you're going to ask a question. So I just wanted to sort of see you all first as panelists, and then I will make you an attendee in a moment. So thank you for that question, Janet.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, so it looks like everybody, I'm getting the thumbs up, everybody was able to find their mute and unmute button. So Christian, can you help me move everyone to be an attendee?
Yep.
Except for Dan, of course. So just bear with us. We ask for your patience. We're going to go nice and slow. This will only take a moment or two.
Where's the patience button?
We're working on it. Zoom is,
I don't have one.
it's in development.
I think you should make it universally acceptable for everybody.
Right. So pretty soon you'll just see myself and Dan and Christian on the computer. And then we'll move on to the next step. Right, it was nice to see you.
Oh, I don't really see everybody.
Hi, Brad.
Brad, I'm not sure your microphone was working there. We'll have to test it later in the training. All right, and then there were 3. Great, thank you, everyone. Again, if you have a question, the next thing we're going to be talking about is raising your hand. And so that is how we'll be taking questions. All right, so you should see my screen again, and we're going to move on. All right, so how to raise your hand. So now that you are all attendees, once again, we can't see you. You should have the raise hand function. And Christian, if you could please keep an eye out for people raising their hand as a question. But I'm just going to walk you through this. You should be able to see that it says raise hand. And if the hand is white, and it says raise hand, that means your hand is not raised. So again, it is telling you the action that you want to do. So if you click on it, that raises your hand, the hand turns blue, and then it should say lower hand. So this means your hand is raised. I think for some older computers, it might still stay white, but it will still say lower hand. So again, if your hand is white, your hand is not raised. If your hand is blue, then it is raised. If you are on your phone, you also find the raise hand icon, and this means your hand is not raised. If you click on it and it is blue and it says lower hand, this means your hand is raised. And then just I wanted you to know that this is what I see on the screen. I will be able to see everyone's names, and I will be able to see everyone's hand that's up or down. So that is something important for you to take note for later in the meeting. All right, so let's try to practice this now. Christian, do you want to, let's see here. Oh, here we go. All right, so I can see that David's hand is up. If everyone could please raise their hand, and I will tell you whose hands I still do not see. So mostly everyone has their hands up. Let's see here. Brad, can you try clicking the hand raise button? Diane, can you please try raising your hand? Frederick, I don't see your hand. Okay, I see it now. Ginger, I see it. Brad, Diane, and Barbara. Okay, I see Barbara, I see Diane. Now I just, I'm going to allow Brad to speak. Oh wait, I think he did it. Yes, perfect. I didn't actually see the hand go up. Brad, I'm gonna unmute you. Brad, I noticed when we were on camera that you had earphones and you were talking and we weren't able to hear you then. So we might have, all right, let's see here. Brad, can you hit unmute? Oh, there you are. Okay. Brad, if you're talking, I can't hear you, but I can see that you're unmuted. Brad, can you say something? Okay. So I think we're just going to have to work with you separately on your audio because I can't hear you. And hopefully you can see us. Actually, if everyone will just stay with us for one moment. There you go. I just want to make sure we're all in the boat steering in the same direction together. So let me just help Brad out for one moment. All right, Brad, I can see you. Can you see me? Okay. So I think the only issue we have is that we can't hear you. So I can see you. Can you speak again? Okay, so there must be something going on with your sound. All right, so Christian, why don't we do this? Why don't we have, if you can call Brad, I think that would work. And
Brad can also call the IT number.
okay.
That
So
might be better.
can you repeat the IT number for Brad, please?
Yes, so this will be the same number that you can call on town meeting. And the person who it will answer is Amber Moretti, the interim library director. And that phone number is 781-493-4299. Again, that number is 781-49. Oh, great. You got it.
Thank you. All right, we'll put
Cool.
you back to being an attendee. Excellent. Great. And Janet and Carl, I see that you found the Q&A box, so please put your questions and answers there. And I think those were two good suggestions. The earphones might not have been a microphone. Yep. All right. Great. This is what we're here to do during training. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Here we go. All right. Perfect. All right, we're moving on. Next function is Q&A, which is perfect. A couple of you have already found it. So in order to do questions and answers today and a town meeting, what we're going to do is, actually, I'm sorry, it's going to be points of order will be what we do for town meeting. But for today, you can do questions, technical questions. Please find the Q&A icon. It should look like two speech bubbles and should say Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Once you click on it, a box should appear where you can type your question in. And what's nice about this is that we will all be able to see your question. And then one of us will actually be able to answer your question right away. And for every question, there's an answer associated to it. And it will also get saved. So you can click this button to all questions on the left and you can see all the questions that come in, or you can just look at your past questions and your past answers. The other nice thing about this is that you can see who's asking the question and who's answering it. So I'm just gonna show you what it looks like on your phone. So it's very simple. It should just be like a text box here that pops up. And then we are going to take a look at the Q&A button right now. Mine is not popping up. So Christian, can you please let me know if people have questions on this? And then for everyone else, please find your Q&A button and click the word or write the word test.
We have one question so far, and that is from Diane. And she asks, when you were doing the hand raising, I didn't have the option to mute or unmute. The icon wasn't there. And that is because now you are all in the, if you remember the attendee versus panelist slide that Emily showed, where attendees were in the audience and panelists were on the stage. When we all started, we were on the stage together, but now everyone is in the audience as attendees. And when you're in the audience as an attendee, you actually don't have your microphone. And so we'll go into this more later, but the way that you would be able to speak is that you would raise your hand, and then we would click a button that we can see that says allow to talk. And then you will see the microphone show up. So you should not be seeing the microphone now, but later on, we will be able to explore what that will look like for town meeting.
Great, and then can you just let me know if everyone wrote in the word test?
I see
about 16.
I see 15 answers of test.
All right, so if anybody is having difficulty finding the test Q&A button, please raise your hand and then we'll unmute you and we can walk you through it. Great, Barbara. Okay, Barbara, if you could unmute yourself now, we can walk you through the Q&A.
I'm unmuted.
I can hear you.
Okay. When I looked for the space to write test, there was no space there. There was no blank area.
Okay, so what device are you using?
I'm on an iPad.
Okay, let's see. It should have popped up and there should be a box for you to be able to click into and write. So you said there's nothing there for you to write into?
It says ask my questions, and then it just says welcome. Nothing else is there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just found it. It said ask question.
Oh yeah, so it might not be entire, that sometimes depending on the device, the box where you
There you
type
go.
it might not be super obvious.
I got it.
Perfect.
Great.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Is there anybody else that's having an issue with the Q&A function? Please raise your hand. Okay, and actually it looks like the numbers went up. So I can see more Q&As came in.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So if anybody has any questions about this, now's the time. And please, please write in test once you find the Q&A function. We might be missing a few. I see 20.
I've answered, a couple of people posted actual questions, which
Okay.
I have answered. So I think we're probably,
We've hit it.
we've hit it, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Emily, if I could just say a word about the point of order function. So point of order is technically when you have a question about a matter of procedure. The way we've used it at Dedham Town Meeting is it's kind of your safety net. Like, for example, if you lose track of what article we're voting on, or if I make a mistake, like sometimes I'll call for the ayes and I might forget to call for the nays, and somebody will, just raise a point of order. So it's kind of your last ditch. Please don't go any further. I'm not sure what the next step is. Sometimes people will lose track of what a yes vote is and what a no vote means, because the arguments can get a little twisted around. Sometimes a yes vote means you're against the article. So, because if the motion is to indefinitely postpone the article, you vote yes, that means you're against the article. So if you ever get into that situation, just call out point of order and don't worry too much about whether you're technically raising a point of order. Now, the thing that you can't do with point of order is you're really dying to say something about the article. That's not the way to get in line. Just think of regular town meeting. At regular town meeting, if you want to speak on the article, you have to be recognized. You either get up to the microphone or you sit in your seat and raise your hand, and Emily will go over that in a minute. So point of order, Q&A box, it's kind of your way to kind of stop the train for just a second because you've lost your way or you're not sure what we're voting on. And don't be shy about using it. It's important that you know exactly where we are. Or again, if you see that there's an apparent mistake being made, you can certainly use point of order.
Great. All right, and what we are going to be doing now is talking a little bit about voting, and then we will actually run through all of these Zoom functions again as they relate to town meeting. So thank you, Dan, for sharing that. All right, let me just go back here. So voting, very important function, obviously, for town meeting. There will be two methods for voting. One is you are going to be using a Zoom poll for standing votes, and we will be explaining and practicing the Zoom poll in a moment. And you'll be using the raise hand for voice votes. So that is why I really wanted to make sure that you knew how to raise your hand and put it back down. One note is that the Zoom poll does not work on web pages, Chrome, Explorer, Edge, Safari, and Firefox. You must download the Zoom desktop client or the Zoom smartphone app. We will also be walking through this in a moment, but really the important thing here is that we would all like you to download the Zoom desktop client or app before town meeting so that you can participate in the poll. Dan, did you want to add something here on voting?
Yes, also, when you do the test poll, if people are able to participate in the test poll, that means that they're all set. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So they don't have to worry about downloading anything. It's apparently already been downloaded to your device. If you can't participate in the poll, then you need to pay close attention to what Emily says about how to download. So just getting back to the voting for a minute. You know that at town meeting, most votes or many votes are voice votes. So I call for the ayes, I call for the nays, and I just kind of listen closely and call the vote. Anybody who doubts that vote, they can stand, and if they get a couple of people to stand with them, we'll move on. But so raise hand is to be thought of as like the voice vote, and we use voice votes for things that are not controversial. Votes that we think are going to either pass or fail pretty much with consensus of the group. Again, that's not the final word if somebody doubts it. So if you just think as the raise hand function for all of those things that we usually handle with a voice vote. Now, also there are votes at town meeting that we do a standing vote on. Luckily, we don't do everything on a standing vote. But if something is somewhat controversial, and we think it might be a close vote, or if somebody asks for a standing vote, takes just a small number of people to request a standing vote, that would be the Zoom poll. So we would expect and hope that most of the votes at town meeting will be voice votes, in other words, raise hand, but perhaps something like the public safety building, which has been a lot of discussion about, that would probably be, if we were in a real town meeting, that would probably be a standing vote. And so in this virtual town meeting, we do standing votes by using the Zoom poll. So Emily and Christian will explain to you how you do those two, how you vote in those two manners.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so let's see here. So the next thing that I want to walk you through is the Zoom polls. When I hit Zoom poll, there will be a box that pops up. And so this is an example of a poll. So this is just, a fake example, but this is an attendance poll. Are you in attendance? Yes or NA. We won't be using this for town meeting. We'll be using something with better language, but for the example, first question has a yes and an NA option. You would click on the button that indicates your answer. Please note at the top there's an X. Do not X out of the poll. If you X out of the poll before hitting submit, then it will not record your answer. Also, you might have trouble seeing future polls, so please don't X out of the window. Once you click your option here, you can hit submit. Just something for you to know. If you meant to click NA and didn't mean to click yes, you can change your answer. The poll will take the last thing that you clicked on, and you will see that it is highlighted, the circle is highlighted, and then you can click submit. So I just, in case you click on something and meant to have clicked on something else, it's okay. It will take the last thing that you clicked on, and then you can hit submit. After you hit submit, we will be able to see the percentage of people that clicked on whatever answer. In this case, it says 100. We will also be able to see the number of folks that clicked on each answer. So that is just something for you to know. Dan will be able to see it as the moderator. He will be able to see the number. He will not be able, you will not be able to see the number, but he will communicate it. You will see the percentage. We will be trying out a poll in a few moments, and so you'll see what I mean. And when you're done here, you can hit the close button instead of the X button. All right, so this part is, this is where we will test to see if you can do a poll. And if you're not able to do the poll, then we know that you have to download the app. All right, so we are going to go in here. Let's do an attendance poll. I'm going to relaunch it, and you should be able to see this. So everyone should be able to see a box that says attendance poll in progress. Please click on yes. I just want to make sure that everyone here can vote. There are 28 people on the line. I see about 17 people have voted, 18 people have voted. All right, I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. 22 people have voted out of 25. Great. I'm going to end the poll. It says 24 out of 25 voted. And now I'm going to share the results. So you should be able to see 100% people said yes. I don't think what you can see is that there are 24 people that were able to vote. And that will be important for town meeting because Dan will be giving those numbers. There are 28 participants. So out of today's 28, 24 were able to vote. And after this training session, we will go back and we can see who voted, and we can contact the folks that were not able to vote. I'm gonna actually do a second poll to just test this out one more time here. This one has another yes, no option, and I'm allowing panelists to vote. So Dan and Christian, you can vote in this one. So please vote yes or no. This is a test. So article number 12, no. Yes or no. Right, I can see that 18 of you have voted, 20 of you have voted. 23 of you have voted. All right, so 2 more seconds. 24 out of 25 of you have voted. Great, so that means there's 1 attendee that still has not been able to vote. So we'll check on that. And then you can see the results. So 15 people said yes, and 9 people said no. I'm gonna stop.
And this is actually very similar to the way a standing vote works at town meeting. So you remember everybody who's in favor stands up and the tellers count them. They come to the front of the hall and give the number to the town clerk. He adds them all up, and he's double checked by deputy moderator and the assistant town clerk. And then they give me the numbers and I announce them. So this is really very similar. You'll click on the poll, the numbers will come in. You will see the percentages, but I will give you the actual numbers. we tried as much as possible to parallel what goes on in a real town meeting. So in a real town meeting, you don't get the actual number till I announce it. And that's the way Zoom happens to work as well. So that works out fine for us.
Great. All right, so now we're going to speed up a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of repetition from the beginning of the training. And then if you have any questions, again, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call on you. If not, you can also use the Q&A function now that you know how to use it. And please put in your questions. And Christian, you will flag for me any questions that should be addressed.
Emily, I should probably point out that, again, there's a safety net here. If the vote is going on and you see the seconds ticking down and you're having trouble, there will still be a phone number you can call and say, look, I pressed the button, it didn't work. This is Sal Letta, who probably won't be able to make this work. This is Sal Letta and I vote no. So your vote will be counted. One way, either the high-tech way or the old-fashioned way.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Sal, if you have a response to that, you can raise your hand. All right. So we talked about the training outcomes. I don't think anybody has actually joined the training since we started, so I will skip through this. We are now talking about registration and security. This was just a reminder about the attendees and the panelists. This is a reminder on what your screen looks like and the icons that we're going to be using. So the mute and unmute, the raise hand, the Q&A. So I'll just kind of skip through to this a little bit. If you're on your phone, you should be able to see the icons easily. If you're on a tablet, you should also be able to see the icons perhaps in a different location at the top. How to test your audio. So just a quick check here. I see that, is it Brad? That was earlier on the line. I just wanted to check in with Brad now. Brad, can you hear us? Can you unmute? Oh, I see that you're unmuted. Can you talk? Okay. We still can't hear you, Brad. So I think what we'll do is we'll have to work with you individually. Maybe once the training is over towards the end, maybe you can stay on the line and we can help figure out how to turn on your mic. We definitely want to be able to hear you. Brad, if you please, if you have a comment, please look for the Q&A box and you can put a comment or a question in there. Just let us know that you can hear us and that you'll stay on so that we can help you with your audio. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move through this. So this is how you would check your audio. You would hit audio settings, and this button will bring you to another screen that talks about your speaker and your microphone. So Brad, you might be able to use this. You might be able to sort of test your speaker and then click different speakers, or test your microphone and click this bottom arrow to test to see if your microphone is working. The other thing to note here is you can also click test speaker and microphone, and this will also help you check your audio. All right, so we cannot unmute you. You have to unmute yourself. So when the time comes for you to do a comment, please unmute yourself. And you will see that if the microphone does not have a line through it, that means you're muted, unmuted. And then the line through it means that you are muted. Great. So what to do before town meeting? These are the things that you need to do before November 30th. If your poll was not working at today's training, you need to download the Zoom client to your desktop or the app to your application to your tablet or smartphone. Again, you need this to participate in the Zoom polling, which we will be using for voting. You need to complete the registration form that you will receive in an email closer to the town meeting date. We will not be sending you an email with the registration until closer to November 30th. That way it won't get stuck in your email somewhere. And number 3, after you click the registration, you please save the confirmation email. That includes a link that will bring you into town meeting. The people that receive this will only be town meeting members, as well as some staff, town staff that will presenting, will be the only ones receiving registration. So Dan, did you want to add something here?
Yes. First, we had a question on the chat line is, can we put the IT helpline number in the warrant? I quickly shot off a text to Nancy Baker, and she wrote back and said she will do that if Emily sends it to her. So thanks, that was a great idea, Mary. And so the tech line will be right in the warrant, so it'll be very handy for you. So I just wanted to go over these steps for just a bit and compare them with the way we regularly run town meeting. So regularly when we do town meeting, you come into the high school auditorium, the lobby area out front, and you check in. So that is the registration form that you see on your screen. That's step number 2. You'll get an email, and thank you, all of you, by the way, for sending us your email. I think we got every email among the town meeting members, except for a few people who don't have email. So you will get an email close to the time of town meeting, asking you to register. And the registration is as simple as the registration was for this training session. There's not a lot of questions. You send that in, and that's equivalent to walking into the auditorium and checking in at the desk that's up front. When you're at the real town meeting, after you check in, then you're admitted to the auditorium. We don't have a doorman there to hold the door for you, but if we did, that would be kind of equivalent to the second step. After you're checked in, you will get an email with the link, the key to get into the actual town meeting. So you click on that and you're right there in town meeting. Now, just a word and a safeguard here. That link is only being sent to town meeting representatives. You should not share that link with somebody else. If you decide you can't make town meeting or you can't stay the whole time, you can't give that link to someone else to complete your participation in town meeting. Under Massachusetts law, town meeting is considered an election. So this would be the equivalent of you giving somebody else your absentee ballot and saying, here, fill this out and drop it off at town hall for me. I hesitate to use the word voter fraud, but technically, if you give this link to somebody else and somebody else votes, that is a form of voter fraud. So if for some reason, after you receive that link, something happens and you can't join the meeting, or you have to leave partway through the meeting, then your participation is over. It is not acceptable to give it to, even to your spouse or someone else in your household and say, here, finish this meeting out for me. So please, 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 we ask you to be very, very strict about that. If you had to leave town meeting in the real sense, you couldn't send someone in to sit in your chair and vote for you. So you can't do that at this one either.
Great, thank you. Again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and we will call on you. So I'm going to move us along to downloading the Zoom desktop client. There seems to be one person that did not participate in the poll earlier. So if that was you, and again, we can check that, please feel free to call IT or the technical assistance number, or this would be the instructions. So you would go to zoom.us/download. You would put that there in your web browser where it says 1. You would click on that, and then you would come to this page where you can click download. So that's step number 2. On your phone, you would do a search for Zoom Cloud Meetings. It has this blue icon with sort of that white camera icon, and you would hit update. If you have an Android, it again would say Zoom Cloud Meetings. Again, you see that blue and white icon with the camera, and you would hit install. Let's see here. So that should really do it, and then you would be able to have Zoom on your computer. So step 2 is the registration for the meeting. This is going to look exactly like pretty close to the registration that you filled out for today's training. So if you were able to get into today's training, you are able to get into town meeting. I'm sure of it. And so to access the meeting, you must register first using the link provided to you. If 2 or more town meeting members are joining from the same location, they must register individually and attend on their own devices. So that is something to note. We did have a few people in the training last week where they were using the same device for the training, but they will be using different devices for town meeting, therefore different registration forms and different links. After you fill out your registration form, you will receive an email that is a confirmation email. Please save this and do not share the information, as Dan had mentioned before. Registration is a secure way of running Zoom meetings, which will prevent voter fraud and make sure that only town meeting members are able to vote. So please do not share. Now, joining by web page with the URL. So let me just go back a moment. Here in the email, it does give you some information. If you click on the link and for whatever reason it's not working, it does provide the webinar ID number and password typically. You can also join by telephone. So if you're really having trouble, you can join by telephone. But if you would like to join using the URL link, you would paste it into the browser bar here where it says 1. A pop-up will come up that says Open Zoom Meetings. Step 2, you will say Open Zoom Meetings. And if that doesn't show up, then perhaps you haven't downloaded the Zoom client before. And here, step number 3, you would download that in order to access the meeting. If you're joining by the Zoom desktop client, you simply open up that icon, you go to the join plus button there and add in the meeting information, your name, you would join that way, and you would also enter a password. One quick note about your name. At some point, you're going to be putting in your name for the meeting. That is the name that usually appears on your screen. During town meeting, if you attend, we highly suggest that you attend early so that we can clean up people's names in case, you know, you're using someone else's Zoom and it doesn't have your name. All right, so how to be recognized to speak.
Or
So,
yes. Before we move that point, some people will have something like, Julie's grandfather as their name on their phone or something cute like that. Since we don't know who Julie's grandfather is, we'll have to change that name to your name your real name, because we have to verify that the people that are voting are indeed the town meeting representatives that we're intended to have vote. So if you've got something else on there, or even if you have something like Dan's iPhone, we won't know exactly who that is. So we're going to have to put your full name in there.
Thank you. Yes.
One other question about registration that Diane asked in the Q&A. Who will be sending the registration email so that we know to look out for it?
It's either going to be Leon or Nancy. We'll get an answer for that.
Great.
And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. There will also be another virtual meeting in preparation for Zoom. In preparation for the town meeting on Zoom I believe it's the week before November 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes, you remember that when we had the August meeting, we had the mini town meeting, the warrant review meeting, which the district chairs do. That was on Zoom. And then we added an extra meeting where people could ask questions about, it was really intended for people who had some questions about procedure, or you could talk about an article. It's not a replication of the mini town meeting, so we're not going to debate all the articles. But if you had a question, really anything at all, anything that's getting in your way of participating. So that's kind of our final catch-all meeting for questions about town meeting and what we're going to be talking about and how you do it. So yes, that is the 23rd of November, and you'll get an invitation to that as well.
Great. I just wanted to flag that as a save the date in case you have any procedural questions. And probably at that meeting, we would be reconfirming, who that email is coming out from. So I just wanted to flag that for you. All right, so how to be recognized. So as Dan said, we're trying to stay as close as possible to recreating an in-person town meeting virtually. So if you could picture this, what we are trying to do is have people sort of stand up in line behind a microphone. And the way we will be doing it is by having people raise their hand. When people raise their hand, we can actually see who raised their hand in order. So we will be able to see what order people have questions or comments, and that's how the moderator will be calling on people. So I just want to click on to the next slide here. Are there any questions so far? I just wanted to check. Yep.
There are a couple that I have answered, but I think they might be worth mentioning. So Mary asked, if someone's device has technical difficulties mid-meeting, but they receive an email, they receive the meeting email on multiple devices, can you then re-log in on a different device? And the answer to that is yes. Your registration is specific to your email, not to the device you're using. So as long as you're using it, as you log in, if you log out of the device you're on and log into a different device, so long as you use the same email that you used when you registered, you will be fine. And then Diane asked, I'm a little bit confused about the name for your phone or device. How do you know if my device will register my name? And then she said, you can talk to me after the meeting, but this is a really good question. The name that you use will, if you register, this is one of the benefits of registering in advance. So when you register in advance, you can say in the registration form what your first and last name is. And then you will be also asked to identify which precinct you're from. And then that will be associated with your email. So when you log into your into Zoom on your desktop or on your phone for the meeting, and you use the same email that you use to register, your name will show up as Diane DiBiasio or whoever it is that you are, or whatever name that you provided. In the event that that doesn't happen, that's what Emily and the rest of the MAPC team will be doing on the day of town meeting. We will be helping people change their name so that they can show up as the person who they are on Zoom.
That's right. Please, please let us know if that's not clear. And I do, if you want to raise your hand and we can also talk back and forth. That is also an option for today for the training. All right, so I'm going to reiterate the raising of the hand. If the hand is blue, that means your hand is raised. If it's white, it is not raised. This is what it will look like on our screen. And we will be using it for voting. So it's definitely something that we want to be able to practice with everyone. There will be two methods for voting, which is the Zoom poll and the raising your hand function. We talked about this before. This is what a poll would look like. And I'm just gonna go through this because I do want to make sure to get to people's questions. Earlier, we tested the Q&A function and people have been using it throughout the training. So here you can see other people's questions, your questions, and the answers. For tech support, please note that if you can sign on early, that is the best case scenario for town meeting. If you can sign on even 30 minutes before, just test out your microphone. You'll have the option to do that. And if you run into any technical issues, the support line will be available. So please take down this number. And actually today, the interim library director, Amber, has volunteered to help us out, and she and her staff will also be volunteering, as well as MAPC IT staff will be volunteering. So we will have lots of folks available to answer people's questions.
Nancy, we have an answer to that question. The registration email that you'll get very close to town meeting will be under Nancy Baker's name. Nancy Baker, the assistant town manager. Thanks to Leon and Nancy, they're whipping these answers back as quickly as you can ask me and I ask them.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so if you need any access, if you need access to a device for town meeting, please email Amber as well. We are trying to assist anyone that needs a device and keeping track of anyone that needs any special assistance as well, if you need any one-on-one support. All right, so we've gotten to the portion, almost the end of the training here, where we're gonna share some troubleshooting tips, and then we can go ahead and unmute a few folks if you have any more questions. So if your screen is freezing a lot, please check your internet bandwidth. This will tell you how strong your signal is. A lot of times it appears kind of like a cone, sort of these lines that are in a cone shape. And in order to help your internet bandwidth, it is helpful to close any programs or any windows that are not in use. Also, you might want to see if there's other people in your house using a lot of devices at the same time. That also takes up bandwidth. Another thing you could do is move closer to your router, and that will help your signal. You can also connect your computer to your router via an Ethernet cord. If you have a cord, that will definitely help. If you can't hear, check your audio by clicking the arrow to the right of the mute button and then click audio settings as we indicated earlier. Check your computer's speaker and volume. And if not already, try using headphones. One suggestion that was made earlier is you want to make sure your headphones are have a speaker with them. Sometimes there's just headphones that are plain headphones and they don't have a microphone. You want to make sure your headphones do have a microphone in that case. If others cannot hear you, make sure you are not muted. Make sure your microphone is on. And again, check your audio. Check your audio settings. All right, I'm just gonna click the next slide. Here we go. If you can't view or don't see the poll vote, please minimize your Zoom window. Sometimes the poll box is actually hiding behind your main Zoom screen. So that's why we talked about the minimize and the maximize buttons. Please make sure you're using the Zoom client or the Zoom application. Again, we talked about that earlier. If you have an echo or feedback, test your audio with headphones, or if you are joining with a family member, make sure that you are in different rooms. So again, you can be in the same sort of place, but you have to be a little bit separate from each other on two different devices. If the devices can hear each other, then you'll hear some sort of feedback or an echo. Any other comments here, Christian and Dan? I think that was
I don't think so.
the main points. Great.
You can contact me if you have any questions or issues. We don't have the chat feature tonight, so I can't type my information in. But My email is djdriscoll29@gmail.com. And my cell phone is 617-510-1797. And those numbers will also be in the warrant book. At the beginning of the warrant book, there's always a letter from the moderator, and I always put my email and phone number there as well. Or if all else fails, you can just call town manager's office and ask them for my contact information.
Yep. We will also be sharing out this presentation, so maybe we can add in your contact information too, Dan.
Okay.
All right, if you're using a tablet or a smartphone, just make sure to think about what device it is that you're going to be using on the night of town meeting. If you'd like to get a coach, you can sign on for one-on-one training. Please log in early. That will really allow a good amount of time for everyone to settle in and to deal with any technical issues. That way, right at the start of town meeting, you can start with your process and not have to lag with some technical issues. And then if you would like to come to another training, I believe we have 2 more trainings. We have one on a Saturday, the 14th, and I believe we have one, is it this Thursday, Dan? We have one this Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
Yes, we do. This Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
Yep. All right. And I think that is the end of our training session. Please raise your hand to ask a question or post a question in the Q&A. We would really love to hear, see if you have any questions or any feedback on today's training is very useful for us. Another note I will add is not only will we be sharing the slides, we will also be sharing a recording of the training. I'm thinking of sharing this once all the trainings have been done, so we can do a recording that doesn't have interruptions. We can just record the presentation, so you have that as a resource as well as you prepare for town meeting. All right, you've been wonderful attendees. Just want to check in if anyone wants to make an additional comment or a question. All right, I see Frederick, you're allowed to talk. We're going to unmute you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, the question is, let's see, I know who the panelists are. I know who the attendees are. When people in the neighborhood want to attend, want to observe town meeting, what are they going to be? They're not going to be town meeting members.
No, that's an excellent question, Fred. People who want to listen in can watch it either on Dedham Cable TV or it will be streaming on the town's website. If non-town meeting members want to speak, there will be a phone number that they will call, and their voice will be held up to the microphone that's being used for town meeting, and they can ask their question and everybody can hear their question.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you for participating. All right, does anybody else have a question or a comment?
There were a couple of questions after we talked about the Q&A about the point of order, how to raise a point of order. And just to reiterate, to do that, you would simply post in the Q&A, but you would start your post with the words point of order. And that is how you would raise a point of order.
Great. So we have reached the end of our training. If there's no additional questions or comments. Oh, Diane, I see that you have a question here. Yes.
See, I'm unmuting. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Perfect.
Great. Dan had spoken earlier about if we were confused about the actual question. Do we do that through Q&A? Like, could you repeat the question, or I don't understand the question? I'm not sure what I'm voting for or against.
Yep. Oh. And Diane, as you know, as a town meeting member, that happens all the time. And so people should never feel embarrassed. The conversations, especially if there are amendments things can get kind of convoluted. So yeah, the Q&A is kind of your it's the emergency brake in your car. You jump on there and say, wait a minute, I don't understand which question we're voting on. Are we voting on the amendment, or are we voting on the article, or anything like that? Just like we do at regular town meeting. At regular town meeting, if somebody kind of jumps up and waves their hand and asks, say that they're lost or something, I recognize them. We don't stand too much on formalities when somebody is really a little bit lost like that. So yeah, just use the Q&A is the way to do that.
And
Thank you.
Diane,
Thank you.
one nice thing about this that we've seen in the past is actually what ends up happening is like you'll see 5 or 6 of the same question or point of order. And so you'll, don't be afraid to put it in, because there's probably someone else thinking the same thing. And then, we can address it. But a lot of times what will happen is we'll see 2 or 3 or 6 of the same comment. And so we'll definitely address it.
Who is actually going to be monitoring the Q&A?
So,
One of the technical people. It won't be me directly.
Yeah.
But we have people who will be monitoring Q&A, and other people manning the telephone hotline. So yeah, we've got some behind the scenes assistance here.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want you to know, we'll also have the legal counsel monitoring, and we'll have town staff monitoring, and then IT staff will also be assisting and making sure Dan gets the flags for whenever he needs the flags.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Good
Right.
news is Emily and Christian are going to be there virtually.
We will. All right. Any other questions or comments? And then Brad, please stay on the line. That way we can work on your mic.
Brad actually has an appointment with the library with Amber tomorrow.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great.
So he's all set, I think.
Happy to hear that. All right. We have a couple more minutes. Just wanted to make sure everyone has a chance to ask a question or make a comment. Or if you wanted to practice any other lowering your hands or making a comment.
With one comment, these are an hour and a half sessions. So we did have one question before, and before the thing started, and I know Nancy told that person it was an hour and 15, hour and a half. So that is the time, if anybody asks you how long it took you. So I'm sorry if we didn't make that clearer.
All right. Well, I see that many of you are still on the line. Hopefully we've answered your questions, and you now have a better understanding of the Zoom functions for town meeting. And again, there's many ways of communicating after today if you need any additional assistance. So we'll just wait a moment or two, and Dan and Christian, you can give me the thumbs up if you want to come to a close.
Okay, if there are no more questions, oops.
It looks like
I saw raised hand. Yeah.
Diane Bauer. Oh, never mind. I think Diane Bauer raised her hand,
Okay.
but it is now down. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I know this isn't the preferred way for us to do town meeting, but it's kind of the situation we've been forced into. So we very much appreciate all your cooperation.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Emily.
Bye-bye.